I still remember the day we discovered Earth. What a joke that was. My name is Vorkson, and I served as the intelligence director for the Kalthari Empire, the most advanced civilization in the Andromeda sector. We had conquered 47 star systems, absorbed 12 species into our glorious hierarchy, and considered ourselves the absolute pinnacle of galactic achievement. Our technology was beyond reproach. Our military was unstoppable. Our culture was refined to perfection. And then we found the humans. Director Vorkson, you need to see this, my junior analyst Quillnex said that morning, his 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession, which meant he was either excited or terrified. With Quillnex, it was usually both. I floated over to his console, my sensory tendrils automatically adjusting to the dim lighting our species preferred. On the holographic display, a small blue planet rotated slowly, primitive electromagnetic signals emanating from its surface like a child's first attempt at communication. What am I looking at? I asked, already bored. A Class 3 civilization, sir. They call themselves humans. They live on the 3rd planet orbiting a yellow dwarf star in the Outer Rim territories. Single planet occupation. No faster than light travel. Still using chemical propulsion for space exploration. Quillnex paused, and I could hear the disbelief in his voice. Sir, they are still burning fossil fuels for energy. I laughed. Actually laughed. When was the last time I had done that? Fossil fuels? Are you serious? I examined the data streams more closely. Wait. Are those nuclear weapons? They are threatening each other with nuclear weapons? On their own planet? Yes, sir. They have divided their world into nearly 200 separate territorial units called nations, and many of these nations point weapons at each other. They have had the capacity to destroy themselves for almost 80 of their years, but somehow have not done it yet. This was comedy gold. I immediately called an emergency session of the Imperial Council. They needed to see this. 3 hours later, I stood before the council chamber, a magnificent dome constructed from solidified light, where the 15 most powerful beings in our empire gathered to make decisions that shaped galaxies. High Chancellor Morthex, whose family had ruled for 6 generations, sat at the center, his massive form draped in ceremonial robes that cost more than most planets. You interrupted trade negotiations with the Velnari Concordat for this? Morthex asked, his voice carrying the weight of extreme annoyance. Your Eminence, I believe you will find this worth your time, I said, activating the presentation. The hologram of Earth appeared above us, rotating peacefully, ocean sparkling, clouds swirling. It actually looked quite beautiful if you ignored the violent backward species living on it. This is Earth, home to approximately 7 billion humans. They have only recently developed digital computing. Their most advanced space vessel has barely left their own star system. They communicate using radio waves. They have yet to discover quantum entanglement communication. They have no understanding of dimensional folding, and their medical technology is so primitive that they still cut open their own bodies to fix internal problems. Laughter erupted around the chamber. Councilmember Thraxus nearly choked on his nutrient vapor. You are joking, said Councilmember Yavara, her scales shimmering with amusement. They perform surgery? Physical surgery? Like barbarians? Indeed. But here's the truly hilarious part. I pulled up their weapon specifications. Despite their backwards nature, they have created weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization, and they have come close to using them multiple times. They actually have protocols called mutually assured destruction, where they promise to kill everyone if someone else tries to kill them first. More laughter. They are insane, Morthex said, shaking his head. Absolutely insane. Why are we even discussing them? Because, Your Eminence, they occupy a star system that sits directly on our planned expansion route to the Perseus Arm. We need to decide how to handle them. The laughter stopped. Business was business after all. Handle them? Thraxus leaned forward. You mean absorb them into the Empire? I was thinking more along the lines of bypassing them entirely, I said. According to our projections, they will destroy themselves within the next 200 years anyway. Why waste resources? Unacceptable, said Morthex. The Empire does not alter its expansion plans for primitive species. We will send a standard compliance fleet. They will surrender immediately when they see our technological superiority. We will take the system, relocate the humans to a reservation planet, and move on. Standard procedure. I should have argued. I should have pointed out the thousands of data points that suggested something unusual about these humans. I should have mentioned their literature, which was filled with stories about defeating impossible odds. I should have highlighted their history, which showed them surviving ice ages, plagues, world wars, and their own stupidity with remarkable consistency. But I did not. Because I was arrogant. Because we were all arrogant. As you command, Your Eminence, I said, bowing. 6 months later, the compliance fleet entered Earth's solar system. 40 warships, each one larger than anything humans had ever built. Each one carrying enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The fleet was commanded by Admiral Zorthak, a decorated officer who had overseen 17 successful compliance operations without a single casualty on our side. This was supposed to be number 18. The Admiral sent the standard message translated into the dominant human languages through our linguistic processors. People of Earth, you are hereby notified that your star system has been claimed by the Kaltari Empire. You have 72 hours to power down all weapons systems, dismantle your military forces, and prepare for integration into the Empire as a client species. Resistance is futile. Compliance is mandatory. This is your only warning. I monitored the response from my office back on the homeworld, expecting immediate panic followed by quick surrender. That was the pattern. Show overwhelming force, give them time to realize they cannot win, accept their surrender, move on. Humans did not follow the pattern. The response came from a human leader named President Marcus Blackwell, broadcasting from a location they called Washington. He was an older male by their standards, with gray hair and deep lines around his eyes that their species developed from age and stress. To the Kaltari Empire he began, and I noticed his voice did not shake. We have received your message and have reviewed your demands. After careful consideration and consultation with the nations of Earth, I am authorized to provide our official response. Here it comes, I thought. The surrender. No. I blinked all 4 of my eyes in sequence. Had I heard that correctly? No? Admiral Zorthak's voice came through the command channel. Did he just say no? We are a free people. Blackwell continued. We have fought too hard, and sacrificed too much for our freedom to simply hand it over because someone with bigger ships told us to. You want Earth. Come and take it. But I promise you this. It will cost you more than you ever imagined. The transmission ended. Silence filled the command center. Sir. Kolnex looked at me with all 4 eyes wide. What do we do? They are bluffing, I said, though something in my sensory tendrils tingled with warning. They have to be bluffing. They have nothing that can threaten our ships. Should we inform the Admiral to proceed with subjugation protocols? I hesitated. That tingle again. Yes, I said, ignoring my instincts. Tell him to proceed. Minimal force. We want them alive for the labor camps. What happened next became known as the Battle of Luna, named after Earth's natural satellite, where Admiral Zorthak decided to make his demonstration of power. The Admiral moved his flagship, the Infinite Glory, into orbit around the moon. The plan was simple. Use a gravity beam to pull a large crater into space, and then drop it onto an unpopulated area of Earth. Show them we could destroy their world without even using weapons. Force their surrender. Humans had other plans. Admiral, we are detecting launches from Earth's surface, the tactical officer reported. Multiple launches. Hundreds of them. Primitive rockets, Zorthak said dismissively. Activate point defense systems. Shoot them down. But here is something we did not know about humans. When they decide to fight, they do not fight fair. They fight to win. The rockets were not aimed at the ships. They were aimed at each other. In the space between Earth and Luna, hundreds of human nuclear warheads detonated simultaneously, creating a field of electromagnetic pulses, radiation, and superheated plasma. Our sensors went blind. Our shields, designed to deflect energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, were not calibrated for the specific frequency of human nuclear explosion. What is happening? Zorthak shouted. Report. Before anyone could answer, the second wave hit. These were not nuclear missiles. These were kinetic kill vehicles, nothing more than tungsten rods with guidance systems, moving at incredible velocity. Primitive? Yes. Effective against shields designed for energy weapons? Also yes. The first rod punched through the Infinite Glory's weakened shields and tore through 3 decks before exiting the other side. The second one hit the main reactor. I watched the telemetry from my office as the flagship exploded, taking Admiral Zorthak and 4,000 crew members with it. The humans were not done. From hidden bases on their moon, from orbital platforms we had not detected, from submarines in their oceans, they launched everything they had: nuclear missiles, kinetic weapons, chemical rockets carrying payloads of shrapnel. They even launched satellites programmed to crash into our ships. It was chaos. It was insanity. It was absolutely not supposed to happen. They are using their planet-killing weapons on us. Quillneck screamed. On us. They are willing to contaminate their own orbital space just to fight us. 17 more ships fell in the first hour. Not destroyed, but damaged badly enough that they had to retreat. The remaining ships, now under the command of Vice Admiral Kelroth, pulled back to the edge of the solar system. Status report, I demanded, my tendrils trembling. 23 ships combat effective. 14 ships requiring major repairs, 3 ships destroyed completely. Casualty count is still being calculated, but preliminary numbers suggest 12,000 dead or missing. 12,000. In one engagement. Against a species without faster-than-light travel. How? I whispered. How did they do this? Quillnex pulled up the analysis. Sir, they knew exactly what they were doing. They studied our ships during our approach. They identified our sensor frequencies, our shield harmonics, our tactical patterns. Then they adapted their primitive weapons to exploit every single weakness, and they did it in 72 hours. I felt something I had not felt in decades. Fear. Get me high, Chancellor Morthex, I said quietly. When Morthex appeared on the view screen, his face was purple with rage. Explain to me, Director Vorkson, how a primitive species just destroyed 3 of our warships and damaged 20 others. Your Eminence. I underestimated them. We all did. Underestimated? His voice could have melted steel. You told us they were backward savages who would surrender at the sight of our fleet. You said this would be routine. I was wrong, Your Eminence. The humans are different. They do not think like other species. They do not follow the logical patterns of civilized warfare. Then what do they follow? I pulled up a piece of human literature I had been studying. A quote from one of their military strategists. A man named Sun Tzu, appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. I read. All warfare is based on deception. Morthex stared at me. Are you saying they tricked us? Yes, Your Eminence. They let us think they were helpless. They let us get close. And then they hit us with everything they had all at once. In ways we never expected. This is unacceptable. Morthex slammed his appendage on his desk. Deploy the 7th Battle Fleet. Deploy the 9th. Deploy whatever it takes. I want that planet conquered, and I want those humans taught a lesson about defying the Empire. Your Eminence, perhaps we should reconsider. Are you questioning my orders, Director? I looked at the casualty report still flooding in. I looked at the tactical data showing human weapons platforms we had completely missed. I looked at the intercepted transmissions showing humans celebrating their victory, already planning their next moves. No, Your Eminence, I said because I was a coward. I will relay the orders immediately. As the transmission ended, Quillnex turned to me. Sir, this is going to get worse, is it not? I did not answer. I did not need to, because I had just finished reading another piece of human literature. A quote from one of their leaders during their Second Global War. A man named Winston Churchill. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. They meant it. Every word. And we had just started a war with a species that would rather die fighting than live on their knees. The 7th and 9th battle fleets arrived at Earth's solar system 3 weeks after what humans were already calling their Independence Day victory. I had recommended a more cautious approach, perhaps opening diplomatic channels, maybe even negotiating a treaty. High Chancellor Morthex had responded by demoting me and assigning me as a logistics coordinator for the invasion force. So there I was, sitting in a supply depot on the command carrier Eternal Dominance, watching 200 warships prepare to crush a planet that should have surrendered the moment they saw our technology. Should have. The fleet commander was Supreme Admiral Vex Starry, a veteran of 30 campaigns and possessor of exactly 0 patience for what she called primitive nonsense. She had reviewed the Battle of Luna recordings exactly once before, declaring that Admiral Zorthak had been incompetent, and that she would succeed where he had failed. The problem, she announced at the command briefing, was that Zorthak underestimated human desperation and overestimated our technological advantage in close-quarters combat. We will not repeat his mistakes. She outlined her strategy with absolute confidence. The fleet would maintain position beyond the range of human weapons. We would use long-range plasma bombardment to systematically destroy their military infrastructure, satellite networks, weapons factories, naval bases, everything. We would not give them the chance to mount another coordinated defense. Once their capacity to resist was eliminated, we would offer surrender terms again. Simple, clean, effective, or so she thought. What Supreme Admiral Vexthari did not account for was that humans had been preparing for this exact scenario since the First Fleet retreated. While we were gathering reinforcements and planning our strategy, they were doing something they apparently excelled at: adapting. The bombardment began exactly as planned. Plasma beams lanced down from orbit, targeting military installations across the planet. I watched the tactical display as target after target was eliminated with precision strikes. Air Force bases in North America, naval shipyards in Asia, missile silos in Europe. Within 6 hours we had destroyed 70% of their identified military infrastructure. Excellent progress, Vexthari said, her scales gleaming with satisfaction. Continue bombardment pattern Alpha. We will have complete military suppression within 48 hours. That was when the humans revealed what they had been building. Supreme Admiral, we have unknown contacts emerging from Earth's oceans, the sensor operator announced. Multiple contacts, hundreds of them. Submarines? Vexthari asked. Our intelligence reports indicated we destroyed their submarine fleet in the first wave of attacks. Negative, Admiral. These are not submarines. They are rising. Altitude increasing. They are coming toward us. On the display I watched as hundreds of objects burst from Earth's oceans, shedding water and foam as they accelerated upward on pillars of fire. They were crude-looking things like metal cylinders with engines strapped to them, but they were faster than anything we had seen humans build before. Intercept and destroy, Vexthari ordered calmly. All point defense batteries open fire, our weapons systems engaged, and space lit up with energy beams and kinetic rounds. The first wave of human craft was obliterated. So was the second wave, and the third, but the fourth wave got through. Brace for impact, someone shouted. The human missiles, because that is what they were, struck our ships with devastating effect. Not because of explosive force, though they had plenty of that, but because of what they carried inside. Each missile contained thousands of tiny drones, each one programmed with one simple task: attach to a ship's hull and drill. Within minutes our outer hull ships were reporting hull breaches across multiple decks. The drones were small enough to evade our point defense systems and numerous enough that destroying them all was impossible. Seal all compartments, Vexthari commanded. Deploy repair teams. This is a minor inconvenience, nothing more. But it was not a minor inconvenience. Because while our crews were dealing with the drilling drones, the humans launched their second surprise. From the dark side of their moon, from hidden bases in the asteroid belt, from locations we had never even scanned, massive railguns opened fire. Not energy weapons that our shields could deflect, but physical projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The first railgun slug hit the battleship Crimson Vengeance amidships. The kinetic energy was so immense that the ship literally broke in half. 15,000 crew members died instantly. Evasive maneuvers. Vexthari screamed, her composure finally cracking. All ships scatter formation. Return fire on those railgun positions. Chaos erupted across the fleet. Ships that had maintained perfect formation for the bombardment now scattered like startled prey animals. Our weapons targeted the railgun positions, but the humans had built them into asteroids and moon craters, natural fortifications that absorbed our fire while they kept shooting. 3 more capital ships fell. Then 5. Then 8. This is impossible. Vexthari slammed her appendages against her command console. They should not have this technology. Our intelligence said they barely had a space program. Admiral, I spoke up from my position at the logistics station. Permission to speak freely. What is it, Vorkson? Our intelligence was 3 months old when we first arrived. That was 6 months ago. We have given them 9 months to prepare. 9 months for a species that went from first powered flight to landing on their own moon in 66 years. 9 months for a civilization that invented nuclear weapons, used them twice, and then spent the next 80 years figuring out how to make them more efficient. What are you saying? I am saying that humans do not just adapt to threats, Admiral. They evolve past them. They out-innovate their enemies. It is what they do. It is all they have ever done. Before Vexthari could respond, the tactical officer interrupted. Admiral, we are detecting new launches from Earth's surface. Thousands of them. Small craft. Single occupant from the signatures. Fighters? Vexthari asked. They built a fighter core? Apparently so, Admiral. I pulled up the visual feed and felt my tendrils go numb. They were not elegant craft like our interceptors. They were ugly, boxy things that looked like they had been assembled in garages and workshops. Because they probably had. Humans had converted their civilian manufacturing, their entire industrial base, into a war machine. And now that machine was coming for us. The human pilots flew like nothing I had ever seen. They did not maintain formation. They did not follow textbook tactics. They flew like they were insane, diving through our defensive fire, sacrificing themselves to take out our weapons platforms, using their own destroyed fighters as cover to get close enough for missile launches. These pilots have no sense of self-preservation. Our fighter coordinator shouted, "They are ramming our ships deliberately. Then shoot them down." Vextari ordered. We did. We shot down hundreds of them. But thousands more kept coming. And every single human pilot who died took at least one of our systems with them. Lieutenant Mara Valdez, that was the name of the first pilot whose communications we intercepted. She was 23 years old, flying a fighter that had been built in a factory that made automobiles 2 months earlier. Eagle 7 to Fleet Command. Her voice came through our translation systems. "I have multiple bogeys on my 6. Shields at 15%. Right engine is gone. Requesting permission to make my run count." "Permission granted, Eagle 7. A human commander responded. "Give them hell." We watched as Valdez's fighter, trailing fire and atmosphere, accelerated directly toward one of our destroyers. Our point defense hit her craft repeatedly, but she kept coming. At the last second, she launched her remaining missiles at point-blank range, then crashed her fighter into the destroyer's bridge. Both exploded. She was one pilot, one human. She destroyed a ship that carried 800 crew members, and cost more resources than her entire planet's economy could produce in a year, and there were thousands more just like her. "Fall back!" Vextari finally gave the order I had been expecting. "All ships retreat to Rally Point Gamma. This engagement is over." But the humans were not done with us yet. As our fleet turned to retreat, something strange happened. The Earth's moon, which had been behind us during the engagement, suddenly lit up with dozens of massive energy signatures. "What now?" Vextari whispered. "Admiral, the humans have constructed mass drivers on their lunar surface. Big ones. They are launching asteroids at us. Not missiles. Not bombs. Asteroids. Chunks of rock and ice, some weighing millions of tons, accelerated to incredible speeds and hurled at our retreating fleet like the fists of an angry god. We managed to avoid most of them. But several ships were too damaged to maneuver effectively. The asteroid that hit the carrier Glorious Purpose was 3 kilometers wide. There was not even debris left to recover. By the time we reached the edge of the solar system, we had lost 47 ships. 47 ships, out of 200. Nearly 25% of our invasion force, destroyed by a species that did not even have faster-than-light travel. The trip back to the homeworld took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of treating wounded, repairing ships, and trying to understand what had just happened. I spent most of that time analyzing every scrap of data we had collected about humans. What I found terrified me. Humans had been fighting each other for their entire recorded history. Thousands of years of warfare had taught them lessons that most species never learned because most species joined galactic civilization and stopped fighting. Humans never stopped. They refined warfare into an art form. They wrote books about it. They studied it in schools. They made entertainment about it, and now they had turned all that accumulated knowledge toward fighting us. I compiled my findings into a report and requested an audience with High Chancellor Morthex. To my surprise, he agreed to see me immediately. "Director Vorkson," he said when I entered his chamber. He looked older than I remembered, the strain of the failed invasion showing in his posture. "I have read your preliminary report. I hope you have better news in person." "I do not, Your Eminence. The situation is worse than we thought." "Explain." I activated my data pad and displayed the information I had gathered. Humans have a concept they call total war. It means converting every aspect of their civilization toward military victory. Their entire planet is now operating under this principle. Every factory, every research laboratory, every resource is being directed toward one goal: defeating us. "So we commit more forces," Morthik said. "We have 12 full battle fleets. We can overwhelm them with sheer numbers." "Your Eminence, with respect, that is exactly what they want us to do. Every battle we fight gives them more data about our technology. Every ship we send gives them more targets to study and more wreckage to analyze. They are learning from us faster than we are learning from them." "Then what do you suggest? That we abandon our expansion plans because one primitive planet got lucky twice?" "Not lucky, Your Eminence. Skilled. There is a difference. And yes, I am suggesting we leave them alone. Classify their system as restricted space and avoid it. The cost of conquering Earth now exceeds any possible benefit." Morthek stood and walked to the window of his chamber. looking out at the capital city below. Do you know what will happen if we do that, Vorkson? If we admit that humans defeated us, Your Eminence, they did defeat us, then other species will start to question our superiority. Our empire is built on the perception of invincibility. If that perception shatters, everything shatters. Rebellions, uprisings, chaos, then perhaps our empire deserves to shatter, I said quietly. Morthex turned to face me, his eyes wide. What did you say? I said perhaps we deserve this. We have spent centuries conquering weaker species and forcing them into servitude. We have grown soft and arrogant. We believed our own propaganda about being the superior civilization. Humans have reminded us of a fundamental truth. Technology alone does not win wars. Will does. Determination does. The refusal to surrender even when defeat seems certain does. You are talking like a human sympathizer. I am talking like someone who has actually studied them instead of dismissing them as primitives. Your Eminence, humans have a saying. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. We need to learn from this before we lose more ships and more lives in a war we cannot win. Morthex was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke softly. The Council has already voted. We are sending the 1st through 6th battle fleets. 1,200 ships. We are going to sterilize that planet from orbit. No more ground invasion. No more attempting to preserve the humans. We are going to turn Earth into molten glass and be done with this humiliation. My tendrils went cold. Your Eminence, that is genocide. That is war, and it was the humans who chose war over compliance. But 1,200 ships, that is 2/3 of our entire navy. If we commit that many forces to one system and something goes wrong, nothing will go wrong, Vorkson. We will jump in at maximum range, bombard the planet until nothing lives, and jump out. The humans will never get close enough to use their primitive weapons. It will be over in hours. I wanted to argue. I wanted to show him all the data that suggested this was a catastrophic mistake. But I was not in a position of power anymore. I was barely in a position to speak. As you command, Your Eminence, I said. As I left the chamber, Quilnex was waiting for me. Sir, I heard about the Council's decision. Are they really sending 1,200 ships? Yes, that is insane. The humans will have prepared for an attack of this magnitude. They will have contingencies. I know. So, what do we do? I looked at my assistant. This young analyst who still believed in the Empire, who still thought our civilization was worth preserving. We send a message to Earth. Secretly. We warn them what is coming. Sir, that is treason. I know that too. But I have studied humans enough to know that they will fight regardless of whether we warn them or not. The only difference is that if we warn them, some of them might survive, and maybe, just maybe, they will remember that not every member of the Kaltari Empire wanted them dead. You think they will win, do not you? You think they will defeat 1,200 of our ships? I pulled up a final piece of human literature on my data pad, a quote from one of their ancient warriors. A Spartan king named Leonidas spoken before a hopeless battle against impossible odds. Come and take them. I do not think they will win, I told Quilnex. But I know they will make us pay a price we cannot afford. And when this war is over, when the last ship has fallen and the last shot has been fired, the galaxy will remember that the great Kaltari Empire was brought to its knees by a species we mocked as primitive. 3 months later, the Grand Fleet assembled. 1,200 warships, the largest military force our empire had ever deployed. Supreme Commander Gathrock, our greatest military mind, personally took command. The plan was simple and brutal. Jump into the solar system simultaneously at multiple points. Overwhelm any defenses. Reduce Earth to ash. Jump out before the humans could mount any effective counterattack. What could possibly go wrong? Everything, as it turned out. But that is a story for another time. Because right now, sitting in my quarters aboard the command ship, I have just received confirmation that my secret message reached Earth, and the response I got back was not a plea for mercy or a desperate negotiation attempt. It was a single word, transmitted in our own language so there could be no misunderstanding. Acknowledged. The humans knew we were coming, and they were ready. May the cosmos have mercy on us all, because I guarantee the humans will not.
Would you have warned community like Roxanne did? Drop a comment, like and subscribe for more. See you next time.